Hello everyone and welcome back to Genuine Chit Chat, the podcast where we help you grow through what you go through. Today I'm here with Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
He's been through a bit of a crazy story where he underwent 5 brain surgeries in 1 month, was it?
Yeah, 1 month. Not in January, but across January and February.
Yeah.
It was like just so intense.
All at one time, yeah.
Yeah.
Today we're going to find out what he went through, how he got through it, and just give advice to those listening that you can literally grow through what you go through. So yeah, let's get into it. So welcome back everyone. Taylor, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's pretty good considering things. Like, this is probably the best I've felt in a long, long time.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, like 9 months ago, it's just light and day difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's just, it was pretty awful.
Yeah, I can imagine. So can you give us a bit of like backstory to your life before you found out everything that happened? And
I mean, I'll give you some like pre-context before like this sort of going on. So I was just like living a pretty normal life. Like, we went to the same school, obviously, at one point. And everything was like great. I was always into sport, always into fitness. I've been going to the gym since I was like 12. And I think doing these things probably actually primed me better to deal with my situation.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, more of like from like a health perspective, like you prime yourself to be able to deal with things if you are built up and you've got a built up immune system. Obviously that all goes when you have treatment and stuff. But it's really interesting. I don't want to scare anyone by saying this, but I used to have, when I was like 12 or 13, I used to have some hamstring pain when I was playing cricket, and it's throughout my life it's come and then it's subsided again, and then we've just dealt with it and carried on, right? So I started getting really bad hamstring pain when I went to uni, and I didn't know what it was. So I went to this physio, and he was great, and he sorted it out. He put all the muscular work, and then it went away, and then it sort of started to come back again. And bear in mind, this is just hamstring pain. Like, it's,
you just thought you like pulled a muscle or something.
Yeah, and I was going to the gym so much, he was assuming that it was something to do with my back, and I wasn't training properly or whatever was the case. And then I was like, and this was weird, like obviously 19-year-old at uni, don't have much money. I'm like, I need to go get an MRI, like a just private MRI. I don't know why I thought of that. So I was like, let me try and find a way. And luckily, through my parents' health insurance, I was like, I was prepared to pay for it. I was like, I just need to find out what's going on with me. About 3 hours later, they called me up and they were like, we need you to come back. And I actually listened to your story, the first episode, where you explained everything to Lucy, and it was like, they always try and sugarcoat it, and they don't say you have a tumor. They say you have 2 primary lesions on your spine. Yeah. So I'm looking up what lesions means, and it doesn't really tell you. It says tumor, but you're not entirely sure. So you're like, okay. And I got the call. I was at work. This is how nonchalant I was. I was just like, oh, I should go back to work. Yeah.
Like you didn't think it was anything that serious.
No, not at all. And they were like, okay, we want to put some contrast in your next scan, just because we think we've seen something. And so I always say, don't panic if it's not happened yet and stuff like that. So I wasn't anxious. I got the call 3 hours later, and I was having the most nightmarish day at work. I've never seen it so busy. And they kept on to call me, and they were like, please pick up. I went into the staff room and called back. And to be honest, that's not embarrassing, but my first reaction was just floods and floods of tears.
Of course, because it's like that shock. Like, you don't really expect that to be the call that it probably was.
When you say tumour, you don't... Like, that to me, automatically, before I had any experience in this world, was just like a death sentence, in my opinion. And it's not. I like to deal with things with humour. And so I went into the office, and I haven't told this either, really, but like I went into the office of my neurosurgeon, and he's like one of the best guys in the world. His wife actually died of cancer. So he's like got like some serious passion towards what he does. Yeah. And
what hospital did you go to? I wonder if we had the same one.
I did. So my specialists are at the Marsden in Sutton. Yeah. But I had all my treatment at UCLH, and then I had my surgeries at Parkhouse or Parkview in Wimbledon.
Oh, okay.
So this guy's called Dr. Francis Johnson, incredible guy. Yeah. And I walked in, I was like, so how long have I got left then, Doc? Like, just expecting him to be like, shut up. And he went, well, I've got patients that have had 5-10 years of life. And I was like, sorry, you are joking, aren't you?
Yeah,
like,
you thought he was going to like joke back.
He was like, well, I don't know what you've got yet, so I can't tell you what's wrong. And to be fair, I'm an emotional person. Yeah. Like, I am emotional, but I have not cried like that.
I guess it's because you just weren't expecting that response.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like when you're first told, I remember when it was happening to me, you're first told what you're going through, but it doesn't actually sink in.
Of course.
And then when someone says it like that, like so to the point, you're kind of like,
Exactly.
whoa.
And they need to be like that because they couldn't do that job otherwise. They
Yeah.
couldn't tell young
They can't
adults
sugarcoat it.
breaking like awful, like life-changing news and feel emotional about it because they couldn't do it otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's sort of one of my practitioners at the Marsden. He was so cold with me. He didn't crack a smile ever until it was positive news. And it was like interesting because I think because I'm so jokey and I'm like personable, I feel like anyway, with people and everyone I meet, and I make jokes and when I walk into the room, they don't want you to go through this. And it's like when they find out you're probably going to be all right,
then they'll be happy. That's so similar to me at the Royal Marsden. My oncologist, when I first spoke to him, his face was just so serious the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'd already had the surgery at this point. So this was about, speaking about chemo and radio I was about to go through.
Sure.
And he was so serious the whole time. I was kind of like, I feel way more freaked out than I did prior to this appointment.
100%.
But then when the results started going good, he became so much more happier.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't want to give off too much.
They can't give off too much.
Yeah.
Like, I completely understand their perspective. Like sometimes I leave the room. I doubt he listens to this, but I'll be like, what? Like it's not helping me at all to feel any better.
You think they're purposely trying to be negative, but they're not. They've just got to be like that.
So I've gone from having a little bit of hamstring pain to finding out I've got spinal lesions, right? So this is what I mean. I don't want to scare people. If you've got hamstring pains, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to be brain and spine cancer.
But if it's continuously, I feel like that's when you should
get checked.
Yeah.
So I had a spinal surgery. Oh, before this is quite important to note. I had my MRI and they did a CT scan. And so she said that she's been working in this department for 15 years and she's never seen this happen before with my tumours. Instead of going down with gravity or whatever, the tumours went up. So I have them in my brain too.
No, so they were literally going up your whole body?
Pretty much, yeah. As in not in every single section of my vertebrae. Just like one or two bits have broken off and they're in my spine. I've never looked at a scan in my life. They always say, "Do you want to look at a scan?" I was like, "No, I'm not interested because it doesn't affect me. It's probably more fuel for anxiety if I'm being honest. So I don't care for the scans. I can't read them anyway. So what's the point of me knowing?"
Yeah.
But yeah, so she'd never seen this before. So she was like, "You're gonna need like radiotherapy to the brain and spine," and it was just it was heavy. Had the spine surgery, and I think
was it first after that you found those tumours? They were like, did you go have surgery immediately?
Immediately surgery on the spine to get a biopsy.
Yeah.
And they're called like grade 2 ependymomas. So like they're not the most malignant tumours in the world, but they're still serious and they're still something you need to worry about.
Yeah.
And you have this as well because I heard your first podcast. It's like, it's never going to go. I think some people, that'd be a really daunting prospect that it's never going to go. So people say to me, "Are you good now?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." And
you can never get that all clear. Like people are like, "You're clear." You can't physically have that because of the type of tumour it is.
And I think I imagine you have the same experience where you see people you've not seen in a while and they go, "How are you doing?" And like really like almost talk down to you. And I know it's not. They don't mean that, but it's because it's hard to deal with. We don't deal with these things. Do you know what I mean? As we don't really know anyone else that's gone through this, so cause you don't know how to react.
Yeah.
And people go like, but how are you actually doing? And I say, "Yeah, I'm fine. That's absolutely fine." And I don't know if it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it is. Yeah. But I don't really know.
There's no point answering that question like, "Yeah, I'm good, but it could get worse." Like you don't want to answer a question every time like that. Like if you're fine at the moment, you're fine at the moment.
For sure. I just take it like so cliche. It's just like day by day. Everything's so relevant day by day. And if you haven't read like Atomic Habits, for example, have you read it?
Yeah, no, actually, that's on my book.
I've read it like 3 or 4 times, and that's not. I just love reading in terms of like this self-help like section of books because it just puts everything in perspective.
It does, yeah.
And I don't expect anyone to understand our perspective because they haven't gone through it. But it makes me understand everyone around me's perspective, and I think like I wouldn't change having this forever. Because it's unlocked so much about me and it's created deeper relations with people that I just didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
I wasn't really very happy with the person I was before this either. I was doing promotions in the nightclub scene. I was at university going out quite a lot drinking, and I still have a drink from time to time, but I've definitely tamed it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I just got into my first relationship and all this just made like those bonds so much stronger.
Yeah.
But I was quite selfish and probably quite arrogant as well. And I think you need to be brought down to your level sometimes. And this thing brought me to my knees at some points, and it gets a lot worse, to be fair, but you have to go to the edge to really like find out about yourself.
Oh, I completely agree with that.
I've got some photos. I don't know if you put any photos in this,
I'll
but
definitely
like
put photos
I've
up.
got, I've got a picture. I took it and I was like, I know this is rock bottom. As in, there's no way I can get worse than this. So I took a picture of myself and I'm bald. My eyebrows are falling out and I'm just pinned to the toilet floor.
Oh
and
my
it was just
God.
like, I know I can't get worse than this. So let's take a picture.
Yeah.
And then to be in the position I am now, I'd be so grateful.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, this position you're in currently, obviously I'm always looking towards the future, but I prayed to be in this position.
100%.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree
Having
with
my
you.
hair and stuff, like
Yeah.
it's one of the worst things, losing your hair, and it's probably not such a big deal because for men as it is women, I'd imagine, but like because of the treatment, you have no testosterone, your immune system's shot, you have no hair, you feel like
So
death.
weak.
I'm so optimistic. So I was doing a job interview process during my radiotherapy. So I managed to get a job with Lucasade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was like business development for Lucasade and Ribena.
Wow.
And then I started 9 days after my treatment finished. So I was like,
Oh my God, I bet you were so...
I was so tired.
Yeah.
And I went into the office, I had a hat on because I didn't have any hair. And I was like, they're like, oh, take your hat off. And I was like, oh, just going to keep it on if that's all right. And they're like, oh, cool. Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because I was like, like literally the last interview day after I lost my hair, it was like perfect timing.
Yeah.
But then obviously I probably should have let them know and it should have alarmed to them.
But also you don't want to go fresh into the job and say that because like you said earlier, when people hear either cancer or tumor, they think, oh my God, no, awful,
Can't
like we
touch
can't
them.
employ them, like we can't
Yeah.
have them here. And that is so like the complete opposite.
For
So I think
sure,
I completely
for sure.
understand why you wouldn't want to tell them straight
I
away.
think you'd want to have someone that's been through some stuff because it's like the resilience they're going to experience.
Yeah,
is
like
crazy.
it builds your character.
Yeah, for sure. No, so I had the job with them and then immediately pretty much I was like, I feel awful. So this radiotherapy somnolence thing, you can't stop sleeping. So for like 2 weeks, I'd sleep for 19, 20 hours a day.
Really?
Yeah, I just, and when I wake up, I feel awful.
Yeah, it's
And
such
I
like a
think
constant cycle.
For men, having high testosterone or whatever it is so important, and having base level testosterone. But because the radiotherapy to the brain affects the pituitary gland, it kills all your hormones. So there was one point where I'm bald, everything's falling out of my face, like all my hair, and I just feel like awful. I lost 25 kilos. So
25?
I'm 75 now. This is where it goes into the next sort of stage of
Yeah.
my illness. I started getting really sick all the time. My parents didn't even come to... This sounds bad, but it's not, because my parents stopped coming to me in the night. Because every night I was literally... I didn't sleep. I was just throwing up non-stop. So I was losing loads of weight. I couldn't eat anything. Like I could barely hold down paracetamol.
Oh my God.
And obviously you have like a plethora of medication after.
Yeah. And that's probably just making you feel even more sick.
Yeah. So so we didn't know what was going on, and that's the scary thing. Like there was ambulances being called to my house twice a week, and I think the worst experience was the constant lapping of like my vision, and it makes you so sick. So you just pass out immediately, and then you wake up and you're in hospital, right? So what was causing that was called hydrocephalus. Have you heard of it before? It's basically like the proteins in cancer, water that was being put on the brain. It would basically send me into like hysteria. So I just for like 2 or 3 days until they drained my skull of this water. It's very graphic. I'm sorry, but this is reality. I literally was like, I was there, but I wasn't actually there. And so I'd be in a hospital and like, oh, my mum, my dad, and my girlfriend are here. And I'm like,
And you just wouldn't remember how you got to that point.
And I'll go, Jesus Christ, you're not going to believe this. I'll be like, that nurse over there, she's come into my room and she started touching my legs. This never happened, obviously. And then they were like, what? And then I'd be like, Libby, like, I've got some vegan ice cream in my bag if you want some. Like, and it would be like the most specific. I was like, oh yeah, pistachio Haagen-Dazs.
No way, so you were literally like jumping from one thought to the
I
next.
was making
your brain
things
was
up,
just like...
and I wouldn't realize at the time until they drained the fluid, and then I'd be fine. So they were like,
Could you
okay.
understand what people were saying to you as well, or not really?
Yeah, at times, and I know you had that experience where you, like,
Yeah,
you
because I
just
was wondering if
couldn't
it was
understand.
kind of like related
was just-
to that.
But essentially, if you don't drain the fluid, you'll die. Because you will have like a brain hemorrhage, and you just die. So I'm very lucky. Like, I'm extremely lucky. So then over the next month or so, I'm in hospital probably like 3 days a week. And it was so taxing on my family, and like
It makes you feel guilty that they've got to constantly be
for
around
sure.
you, taking you to and from hospital. You
For
feel like you're
sure.
ruining their life as well.
100%. And it was so taxing on my girlfriend. She was like, I'm going to be widowed at 23. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's brutal. And she's actually the most like supportive, fantastic
Yeah, that's amazing.
woman in the world, and I just couldn't have done it without her, to be fair. But we joke because like we do quite a lot of nice stuff. Like we go to a lot of nice restaurants. But I'd probably still take the time when we were in hospital and we were just eating sushi from Sainsbury's. Do you know what I mean? As a date night, you're like, this is like awful, but we're gonna get through it.
Yeah.
At the time, I was still bald. I was just, as in like everything's. I'm so insecure at this point because I've got no testosterone. I've got no hair. I feel so rough.
Yeah.
I have no weight to me. Like this is the worst.
Like you feel completely different how you've ever felt before.
Ever, yeah. So and they were like, okay, we're gonna start after operating on the brain. So
So how did they originally drain it while you had the water there?
So they did the first surgery, and they cut. Obviously, you've seen the scar, right? And they started draining it by they put a blunt syringe into the wound while you're awake, obviously.
Stop.
And
was it numbed or any? Surely it must.
No, nothing. They just bang it in. And they pull out all the liquid. And I don't remember this ever happening because I was like so gone at these points. But my dad and my Olivia were just like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
And they were in the room watching it as they were doing it.
Yeah, like they're just pulling out, actually mental. And so they put a shunt in to my head, and essentially it would drain the fluid from the brain to the stomach. So I have a scar here too. It's not like a bag or anything like that. Yeah. It would just naturally do it. But that wasn't working, so they had to do it 4 more times in about 3-4 weeks.
Oh my God.
They were like, we really need to get this sorted because like otherwise he's gone. That's why I just feel like day by day now, because the reality is, if you spoke to any of my friends, they'd probably be like, nah, Taylor's doing all right, because I kept it from people.
Yeah.
Only people that knew the extent of it was my girlfriend and my parents.
Yeah, because you don't want to tell too many people, because you don't want that constant, oh my God, are you okay? You're okay?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, you just
don't
don't need that.
Either.
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
want to worry people, and at the end of the day, if you're dead, you're not going to know about it anyway. So just don't worry. Like it's really not that.
True.
It's obviously it's horrible to say that, but it's the truth. You're not going to be around for it, so don't worry. And everyone will have to deal with that pain, and that's the truth. Obviously, because I'm a great guy and modest as well.
When they first done it, it didn't work. Were you nervous when they're like, okay, we've got to do it again? Like, how did that actually make you feel?
I just didn't know where the end was. I don't know, like, when am I going to be better?
Yeah.
And they couldn't work it out, which was the scary prospect. And then they just did. It just, one day it just worked.
Wow.
And so I have a button in my head, which I click 3 times. They told me to stop doing it because apparently it's like made the ventricles in the brain a bit smaller. So they were like, be careful. So yeah, and then it was pretty much just an uphill battle from there. It was just putting the weight back on, getting my hormones back in check. I was in really good shape before, if I'm being honest. I was, and I'm sort of getting back there now, which is really nice. And the confidence is like, it's insane. Any advice I give someone, talk to everyone. Everyone you meet, just talk to them, because you never know what will come from that conversation. Like,
yeah, I completely agree with that.
Started doing some like extras work. So whenever I see a married couple on the train, I always say to them, if they're older, I say, how long have you been married for? And they'll go, oh, son, 40 years. You get less for murder. They always say that same line. I spoke to this guy on the train. I was like, oh, so like, what do you do for work? He's like, I'm retired now, but I do a bit of extras work. So I was like, here, take my number and I'll put you in contact with an agency. So I did like a Netflix thing the other day. I did an advert for like Merlin the other day, and this just cool side stuff that you would never realize exist unless you just speak to people.
And I feel like like what you've been through, what we've both been through, where it gets to that point where you're like, you don't know when life's going to end. Yeah. It kind of gives you that boost. It's like, why are we sitting around being so grumpy
for sure
and boring in life? Like, go on the train, speak to someone like you did, and you get them blessed with 100%. So many opportunities. 100%. It's like my favourite quote I actually put up like on a weekly dump of my Instagram today. Challenges actually become opportunities. Like, you've been through this challenge you've been through, and you've probably got so many opportunities out of it.
Yeah,
like
for
that
sure.
exact
and
experience.
I guess it's just like being more mentally prepared for everything. Like, I think it's not manifesting, but when I go into an interview, for example, I'm going to get this job. Like, I back myself enough to get this job, and I'm confident enough that I'm going to walk in here and they're going to love me. And I think you just got to have self-love.
100%.
I think that's the key to manifesting and sort of like visualization. You need to have self-love first, and that's what comes with confidence. There's different challenges of all of our different journeys, but I mean, another side effect that I'm really struggling to navigate through, if I'm honest, is because I spent so much time in the hospital beds and there's nerve damage in my brain. I can't run really. So like, again, like, I used to be a really talented runner. Like, 18-minute 5K, for example, and I've done like
Wow.
half marathons, and I've got such long legs.
And you're
It's
so set
pretty
on that,
easy,
yeah.
and I was like, I loved running, and I was boxing. I was boxing with a brain tumor, so I had last in November.
So you obviously didn't know you had it at that point.
No, 2022 November. I had a boxing match in front of 600 people at the Hilton in Brighton, and came away with the win, luckily. But I'm more lucky that I didn't have like anything awful. Do you know what I mean?
Because if you would have got proper hard, you don't know what that could have done if you actually already had a tumor already.
For sure, yeah. So this knee problem is like really difficult to navigate. If I'm honest, like it's making me. It's hard to walk upstairs. I can't run. I can't really walk fast.
Yeah.
I walk with a bit of a limp sometimes, and people point that out like, "Oh, is everything right with your leg?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine."
Yeah, you don't have to get into like the whole story of it.
Yeah, it's just like.
And is that gonna get better, or is it like a sort of, it will kind of just be?
I think so.
Like that?
I'm not really sure because I've doubled the leg strength in a lot of my lifts at the gym. But I'm still like limping.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's more like neuro pathways are like a bit destroyed.
Yeah.
Which it probably is. So it's going to be a long journey, but I've got a new bike, cycling more, and I think I'll get there.
And I think, yeah, if you have that mindset where you're telling yourself you will get through it,
Yeah,
you definitely will. Because I think from what you're saying, I feel like your mindset throughout this whole process has been so strong.
Yeah.
But how would you keep yourself? How would you remain positive as you're going through it when like you've never been through something like that before?
Sure.
Like it is hard, but how would you keep yourself to stay positive throughout it?
I think I didn't really talk about it, and I think sometimes we try to push the narrative that you should talk to everyone about these things and like talk to a therapist. I think sometimes keeping it reserved is actually like probably better because I'm not overthinking my situation, outlining it all.
Yeah.
I think like things like confidence, they're about ensuring that you're collecting the evidence that you are who you say you are, basically.
Yeah.
So what I was doing, I was still gymming. I was trying to remain and keep every identity the same that I would usually do.
That's a good one.
Obviously, every day I'd have to go do the treatment.
Yeah.
But I was living a normal life, so I didn't really feel like there was negatives to look at.
Yeah.
I was staying positive through my habits and my daily excursions. We'd gone so many walks.
Yeah. But I think that's why when people are like, oh, so how did you still go out? Like, why did you go out and get pissed every week? And I know you probably shouldn't have, but it's like, I didn't want my life to change so dramatically that I was going to completely stop doing that. Like, I want to, like you said, just keep the habits of a normal life. So it's not
normality.
Like...
You really do need normality.
So do you think your perspective on life has definitely changed after this?
Like 1,000,000%. And it's definitely changed, definitely for the better. I think it's just who actually gives a fuck. As in, I go out and I embarrass myself. Even if I'm sober, I'll go to a restaurant, and if everyone's dancing around the tables, I'll go and dance, and I'll be the main like person trying to like get people up from the tables, and I'll do embarrassing things to my girlfriend in public, and she hates it sometimes. But who cares? Like, really, who cares? Like, everyone's so concerned about what they're doing themselves, and they're so conscious about their own image that no one actually cares what you're doing. The people you want around you, like I always say that you make up the 5 people around you, and that's why I try to surround myself with like really good people. What's
your situation now? Are you just getting scans after all this surgery?
I have a scan every 3 months.
Yeah, that's what I'm on now as well. Yeah,
and it's like hopefully it goes to 6 months and a year, and like hopefully I can, because I want to live in a different country at some point, which would be nice. I haven't done the traditional traveling route like yourself. Obviously, that was probably the period of time I would have done that would have been after uni, and that was obviously all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna travel at some point, but at the moment it's just 3 months, and I'm happy with it. Like, I'm really happy where I'm at. I'm doing my daily routines. I'm at a new job. I actually got one recently.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
how's
really
that
happy
going?
with that. So the job that I told you about, I actually got fired from.
Oh.
Yeah. So they hired me. I was hired for the sales team, and essentially within like a week, they're like, we don't have time to train you, so we're going to put you in the events team.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's not really what I signed up for, but I can do it for a little bit. I did the events, and I was literally doing like 9 hours a day of spreadsheets, and I was just like, this is not what I signed up for. And then a hiring manager, which he was great, and then I got put into a separate manager's team, and I could just tell she didn't like me. I don't think she really liked someone that was potentially like, I'm not very passive. As in, like, if someone tells me something I disagree with a little bit, I'll tell them. I'm not going to be rude, but I'll tell them I don't.
You really agree,
yeah. And she just scheduled a meeting in for the next day, and I got in the meeting, and it was someone with HR. So yeah,
what?
Yeah. So I was like, and they're like, we're gonna let you go. I was like, oh okay.
Oh my God,
and
I bet that was horrible. But I guess that worked out, because that wasn't meant to be the right job for you.
For sure. And then I've just got another job, and like one of our clients, which is interesting, and it's a sick company, like so good, and the package is way better and everything's better. But I've actually been on their reviews after on Glassdoor, and they're all bad.
Really?
It's all talking about the egos of the C-suite team.
I feel like that just shows that social media is so fake. You believe something's going to be exactly how it's shown on social media, and it's completely not that at all.
It wasn't that at all.
No, but that's good now you're in this job now, because if you're enjoying it more already, that's literally, that wasn't meant to work, so you got to this place now.
For sure. When one door shuts, another opens, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I get this thing called analysis paralysis, I call it, where it's like, I want to start building a personal brand, and I think I'll do this more now. I'm going to be in a more secure job, and it's like way better.
And you have time to do that, and like the finance as well.
I think it's really important creating content and stuff.
Yeah.
And even if you're creating content for no one, it's of value to you for sure. So I want to maybe pick up something like this in the future.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it really interests me, and like my girlfriend, she's in the creative industry. And
I saw that.
It's just so like.
I was actually on Spotify the other day, and one of her songs came up in the playlist I was listening to.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, she's smashing it. That's one thing I haven't really spoken about either. Is like I was feeling so ill and insecure because I was bald and I was like so skinny, so underweight, and obviously it's not a secret. Like she's very like attractive, and she's so much more than that. She's like one of the most incredible people I've ever met. But what you see from the outside is you see some skinny bald guy walking down the road with blonde hair, pop star, and it's just like, it made me feel so awful.
Yeah,
but that's not her fault, obviously. No. We've had these conversations, but I've never really voiced them. I think that's another thing that you don't think about people with cancer having. It's like, especially when they lose your hair, it's just so much. It's so mentally draining. Yeah, I've had opportunities come up, and they've been like, "We want to shave your head." I was like, "Nah, I've just got it back. I can't do that. Yeah,
it's like you don't, like, from the outsider's point of view, you're like, oh, that's so sad. I feel sorry for them. You don't realise the actual feelings. So I'm blessed I didn't use all of it, but even as a girl, I used to wear my hair in high ponytails and buns, and for months I could never do it because this whole side was bald. Really? Like my sister's, it's actually quite bad, but I used to put it in a mid bun like this. My sister used to call me Haaland, you know, the football player, where he's like all shaved down the sides. But we did laugh about that.
Did you see my story the other day?
No.
That I had a wig.
No, I didn't see that one. What was
I'll show you after. It's just like I had a wig, and they'd made it for me, and it just looks ridiculous. Like really.
Oh no, I did see that. It was all over the place. It was
huge, and that was after they cut it, and I was like, "Thank you so much. It's really generous." But
you think I'm gonna go out in that?
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. And I'm not trying to impress anyone, but this looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh no, but like you said earlier, taking that picture of yourself when you were like that. Yourself now, this is literally what that person wanted to be like, and that's why you've got, even like if you're training, you just got to take pictures. I feel like that is a good thing. Like everyone's like, oh, don't take pictures of everything. You've got to always constantly take pictures to look back on things and see how far you've come.
For sure, I take a picture like once a month. As in, I take pictures of myself because who's not going to be vain? Like everyone's so obsessed with self-image, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. This is something I'd recommend for everyone to do. Right, is go online and find a core values list, and you're going to go through them, and there's like hundreds of core values, and you can circle which ones relate to you. I realized one of the things I actually relate, or like I want and I value, is like external attractiveness, and that sounds pretty arrogant or something, but I think it's important that I like people thinking, oh, he's doing okay for himself. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's a selfish thing, but I just want that to be the case. So I really work on my physique, and it's not because I want recognition from others. Like I just want like my parents and my family that he's looking healthy, he's doing all right, you know, and he's like.
And I think especially what you've been through, you want to
I just want people to think, oh, he's doing all right, and he's a good lad. Like, yeah, and I think this experience has made me such a better person.
Yeah, that's so good that you've learned that. And is that because always at the end of the podcast I ask guests to give advice for someone to do, and is that your advice to give them to find out their core values?
Go find your core values and work it out, and then try and base your work and your life around these things. A lot of mine's to do with self-development and all these things, so I spend my time working my mental gym, as in meditating. Or here's the advice I'll give you, right? If you're listening to this podcast, start getting into cold therapy. Do you do it?
Yeah, when I have a shower, I have like a 60-second cold shower at the end of every one.
So what you're going to do is you're going to go 45 seconds, 50 seconds, 55, 60, and you're going to build that up to 2 minutes. And then you're going to find a way to get to a plunge pool or like an ice bath. Because that's what I do. I plunge pool every day. So I do like 5 to 8 minutes in the plunge.
So is this a gym you go to?
Yeah. So we're very fortunate we have that gym, and you can use the sauna. Yeah. And then you use the ice baths. Game changer. Cold therapy. Just work on your breath work. Use the cold therapy. And I can guarantee, and it's a pretty bold statement, I can guarantee you'll feel mentally better.
Yeah,
you'll feel much more clarity.
I agree with that, because I started doing it in winter, weirdly. I'd go for a shower before work, and then I'd have the cold shower. So. Yeah, stinking going to work. Yeah. No, so I'd shower before work, and then the end 60 seconds, I'd do it like freezing, and it makes you so much more awake. And then where you're more awake, you're like, okay, I'm ready for this day. You're going to be more productive. You're in a better mood. So it's like one small act you can do.
But also, it's one of the hardest things you're going to do in that day is the battle, especially in the winter. Like it's freezing. Yeah. It's going to be the hardest thing you'll do in your morning. So if you can start with that, then it's pretty soon all uphill from there. That's
a great bit of advice, because that definitely does work. I want to get one of those ice baths, you know, the ones that you put in your garden.
Yeah.
I really want to get one of those.
Yeah, it's like a Lumi.
We're
not sponsored either. But if you can, we'll get a sponsor for the podcast. But no, I sort of want to make some personal brand content, and I want to aim it, and I said this to myself earlier, and it sounds a bit weird. Like, I want to aim it at like young men. So like, I'm talking like, so my brother's 12, and so I'd love to get them 14 to 18 and basically just explain, like, go through all the mistakes I made. I can tell you don't do these things, but unless there's an emotional attachment to it, you probably will still go and do it. Like, it's pretty obvious. You don't go gambling, don't do loads of drugs, but like, you have to do these things and then experience the negatives of it, and you have to deal with it. But I'd love to like make content or like what books you should be reading, or what practices you should be applying. Reading 10 pages of a book a day is like the best way to do it,
because then I feel like they're just, if you're teaching it at a young age already, they're already like 5 steps ahead the same person their age.
For sure. It's something I will do, because I used to do social media.
Oh, did you?
When I was like 14, I had a YouNow account. I don't know if you remember YouNow.
No, what's that?
It was like a live streaming thing, and I had like 40,000 followers on it, and it was like all organic followers, and I had like this little cult following of like, I was like 15 at the time, this cult following of like young girls. I was like almost famous. Like, to be fair, I had 200,000 followers on Musical.ly.
I feel like you've got such like good ideas of sort of what you want to do in the future and different content ideas, and I feel like this would be a good podcast to listen back to when you've actually got to that point.
Well, my perspective changes so often, like, and the person I am changing, and not in a negative way, but I just feel like I'm constantly growing at the moment. Growth and comfort don't coexist. I love that saying. Like, we say it all the time, and I'm actually very, very fortunate. You need someone in your life who's like your little anchor, and for me that's Libby, and it's like we do these things together, like 75 Hard, and we're doing it together.
You're doing it together, so you have that support like, from each other.
I just, in a relationship, like, please don't rush into them. I see so many people that are desperate to be in a relationship, desperate for love, but it's such a cliche saying, but just build a garden, the butterflies will come to you. If you chase them, they'll fly away.
That,
you know what I mean?
Is so true, yeah.
And it's like, I spent a lot of my time in uni building that version of myself, and I never really like chased. And then finally, when I met someone that like it just gelled with, it wasn't forced. Well. It wasn't forced. We're so focused on building each other up. You need people around you like that, and especially for the person you're going to be spending the most time with. And I see some life coaches, and like they're like 25. They've got a little bit of social media followers, and they live in Bali or something, right? And they're like, "Oh, I can change your life." Mate, you don't have a fucking clue what life is.
Yeah, you can't get to that point. You and
we've been through a lot, right? Me and you, but we don't know what life is about.
No,
I like my surgeons, my pilots, and my coaches all to have grey hair.
Yeah,
I don't want any surgeons without grey hair, right?
That's why I've like started this at this young age, so I can like build myself up over time, learn all the advice, and then my future end goal would be to get to that point. Like, I don't want to say I want to do a TED Talk next year, because like you said, I don't have all the experience that life chucks at you. Do that. Life is a whole process.
Yeah,
it is.
And we're being so like self-help guru right now. I'm like, it's a process, which it is. It's just, but there's no speed that you have to get to things, and don't rush it. Like, I was desperate to have like a Rolex, or desperate to have a nice car.
It's like, what are you doing that for?
And it's like, why? Like, why do I actually really need these things? But obviously, I'm still going to get those things, and I'm determined, and I know I'm going to be successful. I'm just so like self-assured, and I'm so confident that it's going to come at some point. But there's much deeper values now. I look at these things like these sessions like therapy almost. I spoke to this lady the other day, and she does loads of research on like brain health, and she'd never spoke to someone with a tumour before. We did an hour-and-a-half chat. That was great.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you inviting me on. Obviously, I know you messaged me. I actually looked in the car. I was like, she messaged me like in March. So you obviously must have still been going through it.
Yeah. Damn. I messaged you originally to come in on March, and I was like, I still would really want you to come on to see your perspective to everything.
Oh, for sure.
Because like, even the advice you've given today has been so great, and it would definitely help a lot of people, not just if they're going through it, but just like general life advice in itself.
the favorite song question you did.
Yeah, I was gonna say like to come to the end of this.
Not gonna let you go without telling you that.
Go on.
So I've got a couple. So like Waves by Miguel, Tame Impala remix. That is just like a euphoric song. So whenever I'm in like a setting on holiday, I'll put that song on.
Yeah, and it just makes you feel good.
And then the other one that I just love is Beautiful Escape by Tom Misch and Zach Abel.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
Absolutely love them. Anything Loyal Kana does, love.
That's so weird. I've actually been listening to him so much the past couple of days.
Yeah, I went to a Loyal Kana concert. I sat down and I was like, looked to my left, it's Jamie Oliver. I was like, didn't expect you to be here. And he was a lovely guy.
So random, really?
Yeah, he was a lovely guy.
Wow.
One last thing, actually. I saw something the other day about you either live it up in your 20s or you work it up in your 20s. You're either an underskilled 30-year-old or an underlived 30-year-old. You see what I mean? So I'm just trying to nail that balance. And I think what they're trying to say, the perception of like underlived is like, you don't have to go out and just get smashed every weekend. Like, that's fun, right? I like doing that too. But you can still go live it up while doing sensible options and like being financially savvy and stuff, definitely. You know? But yeah, just enjoy it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, anyone you speak to that's older than us, they'll say, I wish I was in your position.
Yeah.
You know what 100%, I mean?
100%, yeah.
Even if there's no money, they would like, take it all.
Yeah.
I'd rather be your age again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, honestly, I feel like you've given such great advice, and I feel like the core to all of it is have that self-confidence, have that self-love. And you will literally drive yourself down the path that you're meant to go down. Just
back yourself. There's no one else that's going to... You should read the book called The Courage to Be Disliked. I'm seeing it a lot on TikTok at the moment.
I've literally just read that on holiday.
Oh, really? I just read it. I literally finished it like yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The community feeling thing is so important, and the contribution to others. If you can just back yourself and do your tasks that they mentioned in the book, then you will be happy. And that's why it's like, you've got to just start reading more. That's what I would say to anyone is read more, do cold therapy, exercise every day, and everything else will fall into place around it. Yeah. You could just focus on self-development and your career will come because you're focusing on yourself.
You are focusing.
And you're focusing on your skills. So yeah, it will come.
Yeah. Oh, but no, that is so good. Honestly, I'm so happy you came on today because I feel like your advice has been so great.
Cheers.
And people will definitely find this helpful.
I hope so.
We'll look back on this in the future when I've got further and you've got to your point where you actually know what you're going to do with all your content. We're just podcast heroes, and we were like, shit, we look so young there. I know. We'll just be like 50. And be like, oh my God. Remember when we were that age? We're like, I wish we were that age again. I'm looking forward to every age group. And that's something that people fear, I think. They want to be in their 20s forever because they want to just party or whatever. And it's you have to get out of your system. But I'm looking forward to like being 30, having my kids, having like a wife, being married. I'm looking forward to my 40s, and I'm in that stage of life where I'm really trying to solidify my finances, and I'm looking forward to 50 where I can look. My kids are older now. I can go out for a beer with my son. Yeah, it's like all different chapters the whole time. I'm not really looking forward to my 60s and 70s, I'll be honest. There's beauty in that side of life as well. Yeah. But it's like, I love being like agile and stuff. That's one thing I do value. So yeah, it's just look forward to everything. Enjoy, trivialize and romanticize everything you can, because fuck it, might as well. It's a better way to live. It's honestly such a great outlook. Just be positive. In the days, you're not going to be positive every day. I said it in the first episode, positive people have negative thoughts, they just don't feed them, and that is the difference. Of course. So everyone will have that, but and it's okay to have negative thoughts. Of course. Embrace them and be like, why am I feeling like that? Because I'm a positive guy, but I feel shit quite a bit. Yeah. So it's like not every day and stuff. Every 2 weeks, have a day I'm like, just not feeling it today. That's okay. But you know you're not going to be okay that day, but it's like a bad day, not a bad life. For sure. And you'll literally get out of that. There's always someone that's going through worse shit than you. And that's like, that helps me. Yeah. To be fair. Like, look how privileged we are. We've got like a MacBook right here. We've got 2 microphones. Yeah. We have the ability to share our position with other people, and we just feel so grateful for what we've got around us, rather than focus on what we don't have by like everything we've been through. Gratitude's the key to happiness as well. It's one of the things 100%, that's like, I know we're getting quite like self-help guru here, but like, it's true. But no, honestly, thank you so much for coming on today. It's going to be such a great one. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye. Cheers, guys.